let's chat a little bit about the US housing market.
Yeah.
House sellers outnumber buyers by more than 500,000, the largest gap ever recorded. So, the trope of your home is your most important investment that we were sold. We obviously had the financial crisis in '08 and all that, and the housing bubble. But it's not looking great. Not looking
Nope.
great there. And Max Kaiser retweeted that, quote tweeted it and said, Bitcoin is demonetizing real estate. Now, I don't know necessarily that that's the exact reason why this is happening, but it does point to something going on where it's just untenable to be in real estate at the moment. How would you attribute what's
So
going on?
this right here, and again, this is just me purely speculating. I'm not an expert in any of these fields, but I have some thoughts on it. And I wonder if we're going to see essentially the boomers get rug pulled by their own stupidity over the years, meaning that boomers have the largest amount of wealth, including real estate, in terms of like their asset portfolio. And as they are now approaching, and in large amounts, like not retirement, needing living homes, kind of downsizing, they're looking to monetize the homes that they basically ran up the prices on and choked out the ability for the millennials to be able to buy one. So you set us up that we'd never be able to own a home, and you got these ridiculous evaluations, but now you probably need to actually access some of that equity. You need to sell that home, and there's not going to be any buyers because you didn't let us take a chance at having those higher positions in different companies, at not necessarily stripping us of economic productivity with constantly getting more and more and more, what you call it, social and welfare benefits. And this might be like chickens coming home to roost to see real estate prices correct because the younger generation can't afford them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, exactly. Like, what young person nowadays can actually ever believes that they'll own a home? Like, none. Like,
Gen Z
nobody.
is just completely given up on it. I don't think like millennials are still like maybe one day at 40. I think I saw some stats somewhere like the average home buyer, maybe it was like Florida, the US. It was something stupid where the average home buyer was like in their 50s. It was ridiculous because there's a lot of
Yeah.
people setting up families at 50, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unbelievable to me how quickly that has changed. And my sister, so she lives in LA currently, and I remember in and around 2021, she had saved up like a sizable down payment, and she was looking at buying somewhere in and around LA. And like, it was
Mhm.
already bad enough, but she was like, "Hey, I saved up enough money to actually have a down payment, or almost." And then she was like, another 6 to 12 months of savings, I'll be good and I'll be able to pull a trigger on a property that's actually decent. Well, what happened? That's when they were in the midst of the COVID printing, and what happened? It became impossible to afford anything. Like, the inflation in and around real estate, the not only that, but like then they started hiking interest rates and everything, and it went from I'm an inch away from pulling the trigger on buying a property to I will never own a home here. And like that dream for a lot of people, if it was even close to reality in 2020, 2021, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's just completely gone. And that leads us to our next stat, and the the horror story here. This is probably why we're seeing it, but here we go. Estimated percent of 30-year-olds who are both married and homeowners from 1950 to this year. And it goes from over 50% to, it looks like it's getting close to, it's
10-ish.
the, yeah, it's like getting close to 10. It's like 12 or 13%. Unbelievable. That is horrific. That's horrific. That's so
Yep.
scary.
That is the craziest chart explaining the entire problems with the fiat system in just one green line. Like, to think that you've had an 80% reduction in the amount of what should be like kind of prime age, prime family formation, prime age working individuals that neither have a home or are married. If you want to know which way your society is going, that's the biggest indication I've ever seen. And the fact that that's not alarming to most people, or they're not even necessarily putting two and two together, is just it. We've said it a few times and I'll say it again. Those are some fourth turning vibes right there, right?
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love to see. I know it would be almost impossible to get, but the optimism. So that's the green line right there, which is very appropriate for fiat. If we had a nice orange line of Bitcoiners, I bet you it's going the other way right now, and I'm
Oh yeah.
damn happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's wild to see, um, this absolute misery. And again, look at the timeline here. Obviously, like 1970, 1971-ish, that decade, sizable drop. Notice that it looked like it was going up a little bit from 1950 to
Yep.
1960. Um, then obviously Vietnam War is happening in here. So there's already like fiat debasement, even though we're technically still pegged to the dollar at that point, or pegged to gold at that point. There was, this was when people were noticing, and when they were like, oh, well, maybe we should start to repatriate some of our gold here. And then it's like, oh, it's not there. And then and then it's just like free fall for decades and decades afterwards. And so like how, the uninitiated, how does this matter? Well, when you can't afford the costs of living, then it's going to take you longer and longer to be able to establish a family and have a home. And like home ownership is obviously untenable for most people nowadays. And that also has them putting off marriage and having families if they ever do it at all, which
Yeah.
is horrible. Yeah.
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FITSCRIPT. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan: nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FITSCRIPT and see what's possible. Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions.
Now, these are the only things that have been going on here. We've got the rigged jobs report to make him look bad for Trump. Of course, like the economy is still not what people claim it is. U.S. adds only 73,000 jobs in July, and unemployment rate stayed flat at 4.2%. Most expected 100,000 at least in July. Now, I mean, we did see these job revisions a ton under Biden. They're worse.
Yep.
The revisions were insane, and it was always just glossed over by the media as well when that was happening. But beyond that, we also have manufacturing PMI survey falls to 48, lowest since October of 2024. So this is purchasing managers index. So not looking particularly good on that front. And then in the background, as all of this is going on, the Fed quietly publishes an article discussing revaluing their gold. And so anybody that is familiar with how things work in the US, they've got gold, but it's valued at historical rates. It's not marked to market. And so revaluing that gold would free up some capital for potentially, this is one of the budget neutral things that they've posited they could use to accumulate Bitcoin for strategic reserves. So yeah, I don't know, Nathan, thoughts on this seemingly perfect storm of misery that's happening right now?
Well, we know exactly how they're going to respond to it. And you can see why Trump has been yelling at Jerome Powell and really sticking his nose in there, and why things are getting a little bit heated is because there is signs that things are not going exactly the way they want. One of the most shocking aspects of those jobs numbers was not only that July came in under expectations, but May and June were revised down 258,000 that they removed from the total count, which is just astonishing. So again, not looking strong. And to your point, I just pulled up the numbers here as well too. Currently, the gold reserves are valued at $42.22 per troy ounce, and they could revalue them at market value of 3,300 per troy ounce, which is just ridiculous. The idea here that we know where this is going. Trump wants to print. He's putting pressure on the Fed. Powell's out in May of next year, if I'm not mistaken, if not earlier. Those whispers keep going around. There was talks of having dissent in both the Treasury position and the central bank position. And even last week, we're talking about how Reed Daly was talking about QE and the government getting involved with the central bank were basically end of the debt cycle stuff. And this is exactly what we're seeing here. The response is going to be print more money. It's going to be, it's basically, we're going to have to kind of accelerate a little bit downward here. Things are going to get worse, team. But in terms of those that are holding on to Bitcoin, we know exactly which way it's going to go. And this revaluing of gold, it's funny. I want to point it out because in the footnote, let me just find it here for us. We had, it said in that document from the Fed was one of the possibilities of using proceeds from valuation gains on gold reserves has been floated in the US and Belgium recently. And attached to one of the footnotes there says the idea has come up in the context of helping establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve or a sovereign wealth fund directly in the footnote of that Fed paper. So this very well could be the way that they're looking at budget neutral acquisition of Bitcoin. Revalue the gold, sell some of it, buy Bitcoin or borrow against it maybe.
That's wild.
Right?
Yeah, it just feels like, again, to the previous segment, there's so many things that are just right there, but like preparation stages. And my lizard brain high time preference is like, why is this not all like pull the trigger already? Because I'm just used to that mentality, and it's hard to get out of it. But I obviously things take time. So and I'm not I'll also kind of add in, I'm not necessarily a fan of governments having the exorbitant privilege of being able to print themselves out of financial ruin. But we do know that governments do not have self-control when it comes to spending. So even if they are able to give themselves a leg up initially to accumulate a bunch of Bitcoin, they're going to blow through it. They won't be able to hold on to that shit as soon as people stop accepting their monopoly money, and they will stop accepting their monopoly money.